We are.
Wonderful. Well, here we are, and welcome everyone. Welcome to Live with Marcy and Amy, your heart-centered woman. Today we're talking about Awaken, Renew, and Realign. Step into your inner wisdom, spring into growth, and rise up as the empowered you. And if I have ever met an empowered person, it's you, Amy. So I'm so happy to be here with you. And maybe you just want to talk about who you are, what you do, how you got so empowered.
Oh, thank you, Marcy. So I'm Amy Shade. I am a women's life coach, and I really support women in their life, in their businesses, and their relationships. And as I reflect on today and what we're going to talk about, it's a lot of the work that I do is for women is really turning the focus back on them, which is very rare because usually our focus goes to everybody else, everything else. And so it's important, and we're going to talk about this today, just how important it is to really put the focus back on us so that we can really make aligned decisions. We can renew our soul, we can renew our spirit, we can gain that confidence that we often lose through relationships, or we lose through overdoing and overgiving and people pleasing. I am also the creator of the Radical Embodiment Method. And that is a method that I created that combines my experience as a coach, a meditator, a dancer, and an actor, and how to really start transforming the way that we operate between our mind and our body through movement, through embodiment, through energy healing and chakra clearing. And so I'm happy that we are here doing this subject in March, Spring Forward. We're supposed to spring forward, and not all states do, but we're we're all here. We made it. So Marcy, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we can jump in.
Okay, great. So I'm Marcy Newman, known as the Heart Shift Coach, and my focus always is on helping people to love themselves and what that really means, and also to cultivate the courage that it takes to create and live a self-love lifestyle. This theme is so appropriate for us at this time, as Amy was saying, because it is a time typically, right? Spring is typically looked at as a time of renewal. And at this time, it almost seems like people are really very pessimistic about renewal. And so in my work, I'm really helping to reframe how we look at things so that no matter what's happening in our lives, we can clearly see that there is a self-love path that will help you to rise above whatever is happening. And of course, to be empowered in doing that. So with that, I'd like to just jump in and share a quote with everyone to kind of set our vibrational frequency here. And then we can talk more about, this subject, which is really so important, and especially at this time. So this is a quote by Isabel Allende. And she says, "We don't even know how strong we are until we are forced to bring that hidden strength forward. In times of tragedy, of war, of necessity, people do amazing things. The human capacity for survival and renewal is awesome." And I really appreciated her connection to survival and renewal and how essential that is. And I think that we'll dive more into that. So let's see. Anything else you need to know about me? You probably already know. I've been in this field for a long time, over 50 years at this point. And I think what I bring that complements Amy is a perspective that is energetically based, and we are such a wonderful combination of energies. The frequency that we create together is, I believe, our true gift to all of you. So sit back, get a drink, relax, enjoy, and take all of this in, because it really is very powerful. So once again, awaken, renew, and realign. Step into your inner wisdom, spring into growth, and rise up as the empowered you. So, Amy, can I start with you?
Yeah,
Oh,
can I
you want to
just say
say
one more
something?
thing
Sure.
is that this is being recorded. So if you don't want your image on the recording, usually Marcy jumps in and does this.
I do. Yeah, forgot that.
Go ahead and turn your camera off. It's fine. And just to let you know that this is being recorded and will be given out to the people who signed up for the event who wasn't able to make it. Yeah,
And
with that,
also to please turn your microphones off.
yeah, they're off.
Okay? Okay.
All right, so let's start.
Okay. Let's jump in. Amy, I want to ask you about inner wisdom. I know that you are tremendously wise, and I think beyond your years in a lot of ways. So, how do you find wisdom? How do you find it within you?
Yes, thank you, Marcy. You know, this is very important because we were not taught to reflect on what we truly believe about what is happening in the present moment. And so we have been taught instead to shut it down, ignore it, persevere, rush through it. And wisdom comes when you actually stop and reflect on, what you really desire. Reflect on what's really happening within this relationship. Reflect on what's going on at my workplace or my business, right? And so to me, wisdom only can come through self reflection and slowing down, because that allows us to not only hear what our body is saying, but also allowing us to hook up to universe, to allow their wisdom to come in and fill us. And so unfortunately, many of us believe we become smart or wise through the doing. And it's, to me, we often give ourselves away in that action, in that transaction. And so, you know, we do reflection, a lot of reflection on what we believe, reflection about what just happened. Like oftentimes we walk away from circumstances, we're like, what the hell just happened? I feel like I just got bombarded with a bunch of crap and I don't even know what's going on. And so it's important that when we go through those situations, to take ourselves out of it, stop, and actually reflect, like what actually happened in that transaction of relationship, business, friendship, whatever it is. So I do believe that wisdom only can come through slowing down and reflecting on the present moment.
So I like what you were saying, and something came to mind because you were talking about reflection, Amy, and reflection, as we know, is a huge part of awakening. But what if you're surrounded by people who have no interest in reflection, have no interest in seeing what is happening and being able to respond rather than react to it, which is what 99% of the people do, right? They're constantly in reactive mode and there is no reflection. So, how do you continue to awaken when you're surrounded by people who have no interest in waking up and understanding that each of us needs to take personal responsibility?
Well, it's interesting because, I think our first step is oftentimes boundaries.
Mm.
But I do believe once that we begin to get more into ourselves, we begin to awaken more and realign and really make aligned action and doing things for ourselves. We doesn't matter who we're surrounded by.
Okay.
But
I
until
think,
that point, there is protection. I do believe in protection in your healing, not revealing everything to everybody, especially those who cannot respect it. And that's okay to not talk about it with certain people. How about you? What is your outlook? What is your um beliefs? What does it take for you to to awaken?
so
And is
I
it
do.
Mhm. And
Go
is it
ahead.
from a sleep or and carrying on, or do we like awaken anew? This is you.
Yeah, so I actually have been thinking a lot about this, and I think that there is this belief somehow that as we are awakening, that that we awaken as the same person who was sleeping, and that you're just going to do a few things differently. And I have to really kind of debunk that myth, because as you're awakening, and I'm always going to look at it from an energetic frequency. As you're awakening, you're raising your energetic frequency, and you are never the same. You're not just one part of you is different, everything is different. The lens that you look through and see the world is different, the ears that you are listening through, everything is different. And if I could just use, like, as an example, a lot of times, we think and we talk about renewal being part of spring, right? And the awakening. Those are not old flowers that are blooming again. They're brand new flowers. And it might be on an old vine, but it's a new flower. The remnants of that old flower have been absorbed by the earth, and it has been used to fertilize the growth of a new flower. And so we have to remember, and this is, I think, a lot of the challenge for people in the awakening process. You can't have one foot in two worlds. Something's got to give. And it's like, we talk about you can't serve two masters. When you are in a brand new energy frequency, our responsibility towards ourselves is to feed that frequency, to make it so that it becomes the dominant vibrational frequency that we live in, because that's how new life is born. So if we're trying to hold on to some old ways of being, old relationships, old belief patterns that are incongruent with the new frequency, we will be constantly in sort of inner conflict. We'll be at war within ourselves. And so this is a very sort of fragile time when we're creating these new vibrational frequencies and waking up to a different way of living and being.
That's
So,
very true, very true. And we've all done it and we still might be doing it, but
mhm.
it's good for that uh to to know that that is it's like I think about I see that little kid, getting pulled back, by the shirt,
Yeah.
trying to run forward. That's always a visual for me as I'm trying to
Hmm.
move into a different frequency, move into a new space, into really clearing out old energies. I do see that like mother, trying to hold back that child running full force. Um, so thank you for that. And the other thing I believe that people when they start moving forward and awakening and beginning anew is that we have to give up this idea that it's a linear
Mm,
straight
yeah.
line. You know, I see, because I coach young kids also, like in their 15-year-olds, and I see the progress is moving forward and then they move back. And in the moving back is guilt, shame,
Yeah.
fear. And so s- sometimes, we need to release this idea that it has to be perfect, that it's linear, that it's going to be consistent. Once we do 3 in a row, we think, "Oh, it's not gonna happen to me again." Well, it might, and that's okay, right? And there's something to be learned in the going backwards. There's something that needs to be cleared up going backwards. And that's okay too. We might need to clear that up so that we can start moving forward and starting to renew and be in our empowered self. And even that is not stagnant. It's constantly evolving as we are evolving, as we're getting older, as we're having children, as we're getting married, as we're getting new jobs. Everything is this. We did a thing on cycles, which I love. And so we can't think of it as linear and we can't think of it as being stagnant and guaranteed to us. And
It's a very
so
good point.
nothing is guaranteed. We are in the
Mhm.
human form, we are living a human life, and we are living under the human condition.
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful challenge at some point. It's more like, okay, here this is again coming up. Now I get to choose this, choose that, or choose nothing. They're all choices. But I do believe in the renewal part. For us to really renew and feel like we're fresh and we're ready to go and we have this higher energy, we must get rid of this idea of linear movement, and we must get rid of this idea of perfection, and also that we're guaranteed something, because as we know, there are no guarantees in life. The only thing
And
that's, yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Yes, finish for me, please.
No, I was just going to say, and the only thing that is guaranteed really is that you'll be given as many opportunities as you need to get to where you need and want to go. So no worries. You didn't miss a thing.
Didn't miss a thing. So do you believe that renewal is a natural process, or is there like a requirement in order to be renewed?
I think that the desire to be renewed is 100% natural and organic within us.
I agree.
I think that this process within us of knowing that we are actually meant to be reborn on a regular basis because we're constantly reaching for these higher vibrational frequencies as creators, that's a very natural process. What isn't natural is what you were saying also, Amy, this desire to hold on to what isn't serving us any longer. It doesn't relate to us anymore. It doesn't even resonate with us anymore. And yet we hold on to it. And so the renewal process is a journey that is innate within us. We already know we are those same flowers that have their cycle, as you said, right? The blooming cycle in the springtime in full bloom, and excuse me, and then we go inside and we harvest whatever we have gleaned from the experiences, and then we come out again, but we are brand new. We already know this. Nature follows nature, and we are nature, clearly at work. So we come back to this issue over and over and over again about how essential it is to be willing to let go of what doesn't serve you. And of course, that also requires the need to be able to identify that. And that's what I think, we're here to talk about too. Like, how do you identify what is no longer serving you? How do you identify that? How do you know when the time has come for you to leave a relationship or leave a job or leave a course of study or to make change of any kind? How do you know? And that comes back to that inner wisdom and knowing what that voice is and how to discern between that voice and the voice of fear, which is what is requiring you to hold on, requiring you to stay where you are, because that's how it controls you and keeps you small and separate from actually stepping into living life as a creator. So, that's from my perspective what really needs to be um, sort of focused on. How do you know?
And it's interesting as you're talking about that voice of fear. I think that voice of fear is so familiar and known to us that that's what we gravitate towards.
Hmm.
And oftentimes, I do also believe that we don't even have the vision to think that life can be something different.
Right.
Like there's an expectation that the job's going to suck. There's an expectation that the relationship's going to be hard. There's the expectation that, you're going to, life is going to be this difficult thing for you oftentimes. And, or, so the fear and becomes, I think we normalized the fear. And I hope our mission here is to normalize the empowerment,
Right.
normalize the possibilities, normalize the desires, normalize the knowing that you don't have to be in a state of pain. You don't have to be in a bad relationship. You don't, these are all choices. And oftentimes people don't believe that's even possible for them.
Right.
And so part of awakening is understanding how we've been programmed and what we've been programmed to accept, what we've been programmed to ask for, what we've been how to love, what it means to be in a relationship. All of this has been programmed to us. And that is part of the thing that's, holding us back, because our spirit, our soul, who we are, knows deeply that something is wrong. We might not know how to fix it, but we all know when this is like something is not right here. We've all had that
Absolutely.
awakening.
Hmm.
Like I had that in my marriage. I was like, something's just not right here. I don't know exactly what's going on, but it
Yep.
ain't hitting me right, you
Right.
know? And that is often the first step to awakening. And that means you do not leave that spot. You stay in something's not right here. And you reflect on what is it? What is actually happening here that's not right? What's not hitting me right? And then once we clear that out and you have a deep understanding of like, oh, this is what's happening, even then, it doesn't mean you have to make changes. It just means that once you have that realization and your soul and your true self understands what's happening, believe you me, that and you sit in it for a little bit and don't deny it, you naturally begin to grow. You naturally begin to seek. You naturally begin to figure things out for yourself because we're all capable of it. Even though we've been told we're not, just settle, just stay. It's just part of life. And so that fear, that voice of fear that you were speaking of is I think it's something that we all must take into consideration. Is this programming or is this really how I feel?
I love that question, Amy. And what came to my mind also is how that discernment between the voice, and let's talk about this in our coaching session more after the show.
Okay.
But I think that discernment that you were talking about, where fear has become so familiar that people are confused. They think that that's the voice of their intuition,
Yeah,
and
I
that
know.
the voice of their higher self is not present. That's the confusion that I find with so many people. Well, isn't that warning me? Isn't that my intuition? Isn't that what I should be listening to? And
Interesting.
so, just this one thing I'll share right now. And like I said, we'll talk more about this in our coaching session. But your intuition, because of the programming that Amy was talking about, may feel counterintuitive. So I'm just going to leave that with you, and then we'll talk more about how to discern in our coaching session. But oh my gosh, you're so right on. And it's why everybody goes in circles around and around and around. So,
I
what would
love
you,
that. Wait, I'm just kind of reflecting on that for a moment.
yeah,
I think you're totally right.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, the
we,
intuition comes when like you think something bad's going to happen
yeah,
and you think,
yeah,
oh, love
exactly.
that.
So, yeah, and I think it's such a great subject for us to go into
Yes.
later. We can really get into detail there. But so I want to ask you, so what do you think really keeps us from our growth? How do we begin to shift our perspective about growth itself? Because that's a lot of what you're talking about in terms of that programming. How can we shift that perspective?
Yes. So, if I look back on my life, many people might say I'm selfish. But there's something inside of me that always chose me. And there's something inside of me that always chose my art and my expression. Even when the most influential people were trying to take it away from me. So there's something that has to happen, and shifting is always to refer to you first. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be cruel. It doesn't mean that you're going to be disrespectful. That doesn't mean that you're going to even push people away.
Right.
It just means that when you say something or when you take an action, it's actually coming from you. Therefore, it's more authentic.
Mm.
Therefore, it's more clear. Therefore, people get less confused. Then relationships actually become stronger. Confusion will mess up a relationship. Without
Mhm.
clarity, if you're saying one thing and doing another thing, you will mess up your relationship. If you're saying one thing and doing another thing, you will mess up your job, your business, your relationships, whatever it is. So the more that, and I think that's the biggest thing that, and it's interesting because it starts with self. It doesn't mean you're even ready to verbalize what you desire
Right.
at that point. Like it took me a long time to use my voice. I felt it. I took action, but I didn't really, I would say I was not that clear. But once you get to the next cycle of empowerment, you become more clear and you speak with clarity. Um, it really takes a lot of the confusion out of life. It takes a lot of confusion out of your heart and your brain and like what to do next. Because once you're authentic, once you actually say what's true for you and in a way that's loving,
Yeah.
you know, I do this all through love. I don't do it through
Hmm.
like, this is it, like
Right.
demanding. It's you get to learn how to communicate in a way that brings renewal in a relationship that really is in alignment with your values, in alignment with your desires. You start making these choices for partners or friends or businesses. And I think that's, you know, uh an important part is to always to start bringing everything back to self. Bring it back. Even after you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. Go back and like, what did I really want to do in that situation?
Right.
What was my body telling me to do? And then why did I choose something else?
Right on. Great questions to ask yourself. Great questions. So important. Yeah. And it's also the path then to everything that we're talking about today.
Mhm.
You know, the ability to awaken even more, right? And it's born from the reflection and asking those questions and the ability to renew and then also to realign. So yeah, I think you're right on there, Aim. Great angle.
And so are awakening, renewal, and realignment connected?
Mm, that's a great question. Yeah, I think that they are connected. I think that one doesn't happen without the other. And I think, again, this is such an organic process that happens within us that because it's organic and it's part of the processing that takes place naturally, we're often not aware of it. We're not aware that we are going through these cycles and it is in constant motion. And it's also because one doesn't just end abruptly and the other begins, right? It's like the petal on a rose, for instance. It's part of that rose and then it falls off and it becomes again part of the compost and the fertilizer for next. But it's in constant motion, constant um, uh, reassignment energetically, which is why we don't pay attention. So, this reassignment of energy, I think, is really what we're talking about. And because, again, it happens so organically, we can see the power that it has in our lives. But what if we have this awakening and we are fully aware that it's happening? And so we're not afraid when that petal falls to the ground. We're not afraid when, we are blooming greater than ever before. We're not afraid. I think that's the game changer. The game changer is being awakened to this organic process that is constantly in motion within us, and it continues to support us in awakening more and more and more, renewing because we're coming alive as a new. We are actually a new being. Of course, the seeds of all of this have been planted within us through creation. And so everything that we need to be in that bloom is there. But I think when we start to partner with ourselves and we start to get more selfish in making certain that we are supporting that process, then what happens is we are realigning in ways that we could have never imagined, even possible. And that alignment is aligning as creators. We're shifting now. And we've talked about this in our other shows, Ames, right? Where we're shifting now, where we recognize that our service, that all of us have been, especially in this field, have been so focused in being part of being of service. Our service is in what we create, and what we create is there to support and serve others. So we've entered into a whole different, brand new way of being, and it's calling to us in ways that we now need to discern. And that's what I think is happening.
Yeah, and I also want to talk about you're talking about we were talking about cycles, loss. Right now, a lot of people are going through a lot of loss in their
A lot of
businesses,
loss. Yep.
a lot of loss in their lives, a lot of
Hmm.
loss of their homes, of their uh with AI, what used to be is everyone's like in this space. And how can we through the loss, I think how to renew after a loss, how
Yeah.
to realign after a loss. And because of what how I've been living my life, basically creating programs or being under directors, I have I'm pretty used to my programs going away. Like there's, it's like one day you have a full program, next day it's gone, right?
Yep.
So I've had to really learn how to navigate loss in the financial way, oftentimes, and
Hmm.
also in my personal life with my really three of my closest people passing away. And so, and then speaking to someone who has a friend who cannot recover from a loss. You know, some of us have a hard time recovering from that loss. And so when we talk about letting go, that is, I think, determines how we recover from loss, how we become renewed, how we grow from loss. And so I think that's a big thing when you hold on to that old identity as you go through a divorce, as or you lose a partner or you lose a job, it's just not going to work. You have to let go of that and create something new. And so I'd like your insights onto that because um, for someone like me who has generated their own income for years and years, whether it's tutoring, teaching, choreographing, dancing, coaching, whatever it is, I took one loss and just figured something out. And so, but what, in your opinion, Marcy, keep is the difference between that and then someone who's just stuck, either from
Yeah.
divorce or like, to me, I find is holding on to that old expectations and identities. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I have a number of them, but I'll keep it concise
Yeah.
as possible. Um, Number one, I believe it is the difference between living through a spiritual lens and living through a mundane lens.
Mm,
If you're living in a mundane world and that world is crumbling at your feet, you are going to feel like a victim. You're going to feel like the whole world is against you, that you are unsupported, and that um, you are fragile, and that you have no support beneath you or around you. And we see that all the time, and it's why people do get stuck, because they don't have the elevated view to recognize if that's crumbling, it means that there's something better waiting for me.
mm,
Or if we look at the rose, if I'm losing that petal, it means that the ground that I'm growing from needs to be fertilized. It means that that energy is going to shape shift, right, to produce my new bloom, to produce my new life. So that's the difference in a nutshell. And it's why a daily spiritual practice, it's no longer recommended. Damn it, it is essential. It is essential because this world is crumbling. The world that we knew it as 10 years ago, forget it. And it's not coming back, contrary to what anyone keeps saying, because it's not meant to. We are in the renewal. We must come into a new way of being, and that new way of being is what is going to create this new life that we all have been yearning for but we're afraid to let go of the things that prevented it from happening. So we must accept, and you and I have talked about it, that radical acceptance, how important it is. So we must accept, oh, this is what's really happening. Now when that world crumbles, you can actually rise like the phoenix up through all of that debris. And that's how we're meant to be. And again, it's a difference in knowing who you are. If you believe that you are merely a mere human, right? Then you will not have any idea that you have the ability to create anything that you want to experience. Can you snap your fingers and have it appear? Well, God bless you if you can. I think that's freaking awesome. I'm not quite there yet, but let me tell you something. I am an incredibly powerful creator. But I also know that it's a process because I have to continually awaken to the possibilities. I have to show up new. I have to renew, and I have to realign to that new life where, as you said earlier, I may not even have a vision of. But that's where I let my heart lead. My heart has the vision. My heart knows exactly what that needs to look like and feel like and sound like and taste like and all of that. So when we find ourselves upon reflection, we're stuck in this place, it's because we have forgotten that everything is working in our favor. Everything is part of our process, and it is simply a shape shifting of the energy that can now support the new life that our higher self is looking to create. And we must put our focus in feeding that energy rather than the energy of reaction, as we spoke of before. We can no longer afford to react. And when we do, it has to be a momentary reaction and reflect and step into a response that is feeding what we want to create. That's true empowerment.
Mm. Yeah, I think I'm on total agreement with you. I grew up an atheist. I don't think I would have been able to gone through everything that I've gone through in my life if I would have stayed an atheist. I think knowing that I am hooked up to universe and that I am loved as is, and there is something bigger than me that is waiting for me is really supported me through my divorce, through the loss, through going back to college, everything, losing, gaining, whatever it is. I feel like if I did not have that shift of energy, that it would have been very difficult because of how I felt at that time as an atheist about being a victim.
Right.
You know, be when you call yourself to spirituality, to open up to universe or God, whatever you believe in, it asks you to go higher.
That's right.
That's the beautiful thing about it. And the asking is with love. That's the pure thing about it. It's pure love. So that we get to really have be brave enough to let go of being a victim
Right.
and choose differently so that we are responsible for our life and we get to feel like, oh, we're more in control of our life because we are not just um, following bad choices or the wind or have no higher purpose. And so I think you hit that right on the head, that spirituality will and having a practice is very important, especially as we if you don't think the world is in turmoil, I don't know. I mean, I don't watch much news. I just read the headlines, but that's enough. It's everywhere we look. It's like what is happening? And it's scary.
Mhm.
It's scary, but uh as you know, when you decide that you are going to be the butterfly,
That's right.
you are going to be the one who shows up in a way that creates change. When you decide you are the creator, either you get to walk into a party and be the creator of destruction, or you can walk into a party and be a creator of joy, or you can, however, whatever you want to create, you can create.
Yeah,
And this is where you get to really shift that thinking of being helpless, of being the victim.
that's right.
So I'm gonna quickly interrupt before we move on because I think we're running out of time. That if you've not already joined the live Q&A, that I'm gonna put the link in the chat that you can go ahead and join it. I know
And
that some people are in here have joined, so I'm gonna private message you the link again. And yeah.
and just for anyone who's teetering about whether or
Mhm.
not to join us, I want to give a little recap about what we're going to talk about.
Mhm.
Number one, we're going to talk about how do you discern the voice between your wisdom, your higher self, and fear. How do you discern that voice? The other thing I want to talk about, I want to continue talking about the issue with allowing yourself to continually awaken even when the world is crumbling at your feet, because there are so many different scenarios where somebody will say, well, what if, or what if this, or what if that. And so I want to talk about how do you find renewal when the energy is consistently so heavy as it is now, just what you were referring to, Amy. How do we do that? I also want to talk about how do you know what alignment is for you? How do you know what alignment is for you? And how do you get there? So these are three really important questions we're going to address. And of course, take your questions for us. If you have, personal questions or concerns that you would like our opinions on, our coaching on, please join us. It'll be the best $5 you have ever spent. I can promise you that. So please do take advantage of this time with Amy and I. We are creating this to be of service to you. Notice
And,
my words. We are creating this to be of service to you.
and
So,
yeah, and any questions you have also, then that would be
mhm.
your time to pick our brains.
Yep.
I know some people like to go into esoteric great things. You know, we love that too.
Yeah.
And Marcy is
But
very good at that.
but we're also, we're here
Mhm.
for those practical questions also. How do
Yes.
we do this? And I think that this is something that we all need to be asking at this time. Okay, how do I do this? How do I navigate this? How do I make certain that I am maintaining my frequency through all of this? And even, is it possible that I raise it even more? So with that, Amy, we do have a couple of minutes. Could I ask you one last question?
Sure. Yes. 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 Yes.
Okay, great. So let's see. We're talking about energy. What do you think? Oh, no. Actually, I want to ask you this question. How do we stay focused on awakening, renewing, and realignment? How do we maintain that focus from your perspective?
Yeah. From my perspective, is to get real clear on your values,
Mm-hmm.
what's important to you, lead it into making a vision for your life or for the day or for the week, and oftentimes, I tell people, you go to work and there's these like rules and obligations for the company that you must follow, and we do follow them. I suggest making a list of rules and things that you are not going to compromise on and
I love
actually
that.
follow them.
Hmm.
We're so bad at that. We'll do it for somebody else, but not for ourselves. So I would say really get clear on your values, get clear on the vision for that week, that day, that year, whatever it is, to write down the rules and regulations and to get real deep. Like how do I know when my beliefs are being stomped on? How do I know when that value is being stomped on by someone? How do I know when I'm out of that value?
Yeah.
What does my body feel like? What is it? How do I feel after I like acquiesce that value to someone who doesn't value me?
Mm.
Like this, I do believe it has to be a physical happening, not just a mental happening. We have to feel it. We do feel it physically, but we don't pay attention to that part.
Yeah.
But that's a huge indicator if you're on a good path, if you are being respected, if you are in alignment with your values and your vision and your desires. Your body will give you a sucker punch when it's not.
Yeah.
It's our job to say, huh, I felt that. What is happening? Why is that happening? What's going on right now that this is actually happening physically to me?
Mhm.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I actually so appreciate your answer. And I want to thank you for being so present with this subject, this theme, and everyone who joined us. I got a lot out of this myself. A lot of times, as you're even answering the questions, you're clarifying things for yourself
Hmm.
and understanding how important it is that we are in touch with ourselves just like that all the time as much as possible. I know we all have distractions, but having said that, I hope that you're all going to join us. We're going to move now into the Q&A. Thank you for all of you who have, registered and are meeting us there. And with that, I would just like to say thank you for being here and thank you for your support and your interest in what Amy and I are doing. And we love you. And we're so happy to be here. And next month, we actually have a very special event coming up. We're going to do a half-day conference. And the conference is going to have multiple themes. We're going to have multiple guests. Every single hour, we are going to be addressing another aspect of the heart centered woman and how she lives in this world, what she needs to develop, and of course, to put her at ease in making life a creative process that, of course, is here to serve her and serve the world. Amy, you want to talk a little more about that?
Well, I'm excited because it's the third Thursday of each month that we are here at the Live with Marcia and Amy show. And it's always, we love having guests. We love having guests on the show and listening. As Marcy said, we learn so much.
Mm-hmm.
When I go back and edit or something, all these videos, I'm like, oh, that's a good point. The relearning of it. The
Yeah.
relearning of it. So you will get a replay in your inbox with our bonus gifts, our gifts in there also, our free gifts that Marcy and I give to our audience. And so um, make sure you check out the replay to get those gifts. I think you changed your gift last month.
I did. Yeah. It has to do with, I don't remember the title of it, but it has to do with, cultivating self-love
Yeah.
from a little bit of a different perspective. Yeah.
Great.
So, yeah, so everybody watch also for our news about the conference. We'll be
Yes.
sharing all the themes and the speakers and how the day is going to unfold. And of course, you will have opportunity to have live Q&A with Amy and I, actually 2 times during the conference.
Hmm.
And yeah, we are creating this to be in service to you. By the way, the name of our conference is Empowered Secrets of the Heart Centered Woman. Transform, heal, and rekindle your spirit at the Heart Centered Woman's Spring Conference. And of course, our dear men are invited too,
Yes,
because you
we
add
love the
so
men
much.
also. Yeah.
Yeah. And we love that you love us. We
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you everybody in the live Q&A. Everyone
Yep.
should have got their link via email or via direct chat.
Okay.
All
See you
right.
soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.